Afternoon or good morning. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the AFRAA SkyConnect Dialogues show. This is the monthly leadership dialogues show by AFRAA, the leading trade association of African airlines. We have actually had this show for now 2.5 years. And we do this show every first Wednesday of the month. The aim of the SkyConnect is to accord leadership in aviation, tourism, trade, finance, and economics, a platform to share with the industry stakeholders on developments within the organizations and how these are impacting the relationship between aviation, tourism, trade, and the wider economy of Africa. The objective being to accelerate growth, promote regional integration, and to create jobs. Through this SkyConnect show, AFRAA brings to you in the comfort of your office, your workstation, your home, a thought-provoking one-on-one dialogue with a decision maker and a change maker to share their perspectives on development and transformation of the African continent. This show is interactive, and I will be moderating today's edition. I will take your questions or comments, which you can post on the Q&A tab to our guest. And please feel free to ask them at any point because I shall be integrating them on the dialogues. And just to mention to those who are joining, the show actually has received a very big number of registrants. We have over 180 participants from various subsectors of the air transport industry. So we wish you a warm welcome and we do look forward to a very insightful discussion. There cannot be a better forum to espouse a continental audience than the SkyConnect show. It gives AFRAA today a great privilege and honor to host a senior representative of Hahnair, Mr. Vincent Ndoricimpa, who is the account manager for Africa and France. Welcome, Vincent.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I don't know where you're based, to everyone. I would like first and foremost to thank you very much for inviting me to this dialogue, which will give me an opportunity to talk about Hahnair, what we do there, and share my personal experience. So this is a great honor for me to be sitting here with all of you.
Thank you, Vincent, and welcome to the show. Just before we start, first things first, tell us about yourself.
Oh, I'm account manager at Hahnair in charge of the African market, like you said. I am part of a great team. I need to mention this before everything. So I'm a part of a great team together with Johan and Candy that you probably already know or have heard about or even met in conferences throughout Africa, any events or meetings that we had with airlines. I've been in the industry for 20 years now, so I have quite a bit of experience. I had different positions in the industry, actually. I worked in the chartering business first as a broker, and then as sales in the airline. I was responsible for selling ad hoc flights, which gave me the opportunity of working with different internal departments, and putting them together to work in order to build up flights that we were selling to brokers. That was a very enriching experience because I was then faced to all the challenges an airline has to go through whenever we talk about flights. And this could range from crew roster, accounting, financial, legal, and any operational issues that you can come across whenever you try to organize a very specific flight. So I was in contact with all these different departments, so I can understand the way they speak, the way they think. And I think this is really, really interesting in order to, face and understand the whole business. Then I came to distribution 14 years ago. I was assigned the responsibility of building up the whole strategy of the distribution for the airline, which was actually starting from scratch. At that time, I didn't know anything. I've hardly heard about what a GDS is, so you can imagine how the challenge was at that time. But it was really interesting, and I learned by doing, being on the ground. So I started from scratch. And then you wonder whether you should go with that GDS, whether you should open up new BSPs and how it works, how you manage the money repatriation, all these issues that all these airlines that are starting up have to face, and start from nothing. So that was really, really interesting. And I gathered that experience. So today, whenever I'm talking with a new airlines, or even that experience that I have already experienced, that are thinking about their strategy when distribution comes in the picture, I really feel myself exactly the same way. I feel what they think, what the difficulties are for them, the way I did it back in those days. So it's really a good experience sharing in that aspect. And then I joined Hahnair 2 years ago, which was quite, I would say, natural because of this distribution experience. And then when I was asked if I would be interested in working with the African market, I said, yes, obviously. And I was very excited about this because what I forgot to mention is that I grew up in Africa. And I had personal experiences of flying throughout Africa in different countries due to my parents' relocation in different countries in Africa. So when I was a teenager, I flew a lot between different African countries, being Burundi, Rwanda, all the Eastern African parts, Zimbabwe, and then also to Central African Republic, Côte d'Ivoire, Niger, which is now in the news, sadly enough. So it was really, an exciting challenge for me. And actually it was a perfect fit because of my professional experience and also my life and personal experience. So to put it in a nutshell, that is my general background and experience here.
Quite detailed, 14 years in airline distribution and a total of 20 years aviation. That's quite an elaborate profile and very African. We're happy that Hahnair has got the team taking care of Africa, comprising of people who are African or African at heart. That's very good.
Oh, definitely.
And for your airline business, for your business model, it's quite unique. On one side, Hahnair is a German scheduled executive charter airline. And on the other side, you handle distribution services exclusively to airlines and ticketing solutions to travel agents. Could you tell us more about this business model?
Yeah, actually, Hahnair supports airlines regardless of their size and business model in taking their indirect distribution to a global level. So initially, it was an airline based in Germany. So when an airline wanting to sell its ticket through travel agencies worldwide, they will face all the challenges that I already mentioned. And depending on what the targeted markets are, it will need to secure availability in various GDSs. So this is crucial. The airline will also need to join numerous BSPs, establish process of money repatriation. This is key because, okay, one thing is selling, but the other thing is to bring back the money internally. The airline will also need to provide travel agent support. And we know how travel agents can be demanding and request many support, actually. So this is something that is really very important. And at the same time, you need to control the risk of fraud, which is increasing. So this is quite of a challenge. And on top of that, obviously, but this is typical from any industry, you need to build up and develop your brand awareness throughout all the markets. So this is a bit complex issue. I mean, different levels of complexity. It costs money and it takes a lot of time. So this is where Hahnair comes into play. Actually, starting from a scheduled IATA airline based in Germany, like I said before, based in the head office are based in Dreieich, but we went global. So Hahnair has been specializing in distribution services for other airlines. It is a member of almost all BSPs. We are present I would say everywhere, and connected to all GDSs, at least the major ones. It ranges from Amadeus, Sabre, Travelport, Infini, Travel Sky. So we are really we went global. So we are in all markets through all distribution channels. And we also specialized in money repatriation, as well as risk and fraud management. So we are taking care of the whole distribution strategy that an airline can need. We also provide, this is crucial, we also provide a 24/7 support to travel agencies. So basically, when partnership with us, the distribution aspect for airlines is completely sourced out. And this is something that we completely take care of. And we fully support the airlines whenever they need, depending on which level of experience they have. We have actually, I would say, two kind of services that we provide. There are airlines that are already in the GDSs, but who will need to expand their awareness, their presence in the world. So by a kind of interlining with us, we open up all their markets. So all of a sudden, they are everywhere, on top of the markets that they are already controlling themselves. And we also have other airlines that are not in GDSs at all. And those airlines really need all the support, all the distribution strategy, and they can benefit from what we have built up during like 20 or 25 years now. So the same way the bigger players are already in the market, those very small or starting up airlines are all of a sudden exposed to the whole world, and we support this. So this is the best way you can immediately extend your distribution. Today, we have over than 360 partner airlines everywhere in the world. We have a big network of travel agencies who trust us, more than 100,000 worldwide, and we are present in 190 markets. So we are basically covering everywhere the distribution channels for these airlines. And I would say that in the end, we create a win-win-win situation 3 times, I would say, for the airline helping them to gain incremental business in all those secondary markets. We also help travel agencies to access so many airlines that they wouldn't have been able to book without going through Hahnair. And in the end, because in the end, that's the most important things, the passenger, the final customer, is offered a variety of airlines and connectivity through their travel agencies. So basically, all the stakeholders are, the travel stakeholders are covered here.
Yeah, you've talked about something very interesting, which is a big hurdle for airlines currently, is the challenge with the repatriation of their sales revenues, which is blocked in several countries. Mm-hmm. Just for the purposes of our audience to get an understanding, how does Hahnair support in this?
Yeah, it's a very big focus here. I will go through small examples which are very illustrative of the situation. Let's imagine that you are a startup airline. You don't know anything about distribution. You don't know anything about the other markets except but your local markets that you are supposed to be controlling at least. But then you are faced with the international aspect of the industry. And whenever you would like to access a new market, you don't know anything about about local currencies. What we do actually is that we are selling throughout all these travel agencies worldwide, and then repatriate that money. And actually all airlines are being paid in hard currency, which is, again, a crucial aspect of it. So many airlines have to pay many of their costs. Many of their spendings are in either US dollars or euros, and bringing back this revenue in hard currency is really an asset for them. So with all airlines that we're working with, we are repatriating all the sales in hard currency, and this is a very, very big asset for them, I guess.
So those are for the airlines who are partnering with Hahnair. So for our audience, I think we have quite a number of airlines, those who wish to alleviate the challenge. It's the opportunity to get in touch with the Hahnair team, see how you could have them support, because one of the biggest challenges, and it's why one of the priorities that AFRAA and other industry stakeholders are advocating, is for the release of airline blocked funds in a number of countries. And we'll be quite happy to see how we could look at thinking out of the box to find some possible solutions on this.
Yeah, I must say that there are countries where it's a big challenge. I'm thinking about Nigeria, but still we have customers in Nigeria, and we are partnership with Nigeria. I recently implemented ValueJet, which is a Nigerian executive airline, and they are doing great, and they wouldn't believe the figures that we have reached with them. So we definitely help them. But we also have many airlines that are selling in Nigeria, based out in other countries, and we are pushing the sales in those, let's say, difficult markets from that point of view. So actually, we are really, how I would say that, opening up all possible markets for those airlines. I didn't mention that in Africa we have partnership with 65 airlines, which is a huge figure. And this ranges from the bigger players. We have Ethiopian Airlines, we have Egypt Air, we have Kenya Airways. So really the big players. And for those specific airlines, actually, I mean, they are already controlling their distribution. They have experience, they have knowledge, they're controlling their markets. But sometimes they need to go into those niche markets where they don't want to spend too much energy, time, money, and then they trust us. And they know that travel agencies also trust Hahnair. So it's a trust relationship both ways, which makes it possible. So that's where the USB Hahnair can really bring here. But we also have very small carriers. We have these little safari airlines, which are based in Kenya, in Tanzania. And again, for those airlines, we are opening up their visibility worldwide. Let's imagine that you are an American tourist traveling down to Kenya for a safari. You obviously will know how to fly from Washington, New York, whatever, down to Nairobi, eventually going through Europe. But then whenever it comes to domestic flights, they don't know anything about the airlines that are operating there. And same for the travel agencies. And there the trust comes in. I mean, if the travel agent has already booked on Hahnair, they know that we are monitoring everything. They know that we have controlled the AOC, the insurance coverage for them. So they know that they can ticket each flight that they will find on the GDS on the domestic market. So this is a trust, and this is crucial here in order to push the growth of those airlines. So we have these small airlines. We have low-cost carrier. I can mention Lyft in South Africa, which is really doing great. So we have different business model here, and we can support in each way. So this is, this is a great asset, I think.
Some few very important keywords: trust, relationship, and
yes.
win-win-win relationship with the Hahnair business model. Now, moving on to my next question is in terms of the traffic and demographic travel trends. What is Hahnair's perspective for just a global view and an African view?
Yeah, we all know that in Africa, people, the middle class is going up slowly but surely. So this is an issue. Obviously, people are less flying in Africa than in other regions in the world. I mean, if you compare with Europe or North America. So yeah, this is a big challenge in Africa. But we can see.
And why is that? If I may ask, sorry to interject. Why is it that the percentage of the traveling public is lower in Africa than elsewhere?
Yeah, if you go into the GDSs, if you connect to any OTA, you will notice that ticket fares in Africa are to the roof. And I guess this is because of the lack of networking within Africa. I mentioned my personal experience when I was a young teenager traveler in Africa. I would fly from, let's say, Burundi to Zimbabwe, and it would take me 2 days. It doesn't make sense where you could fly it in just 2 or 3 hours maximum. And I guess back in the days, okay, it's 20, 30, 40 years ago. But even today, the situation is still, yeah, there's a lack there. So I guess the best way to do it first is to lower those fares. But on the other hand, as an airline, you have costs and you have to cover those costs. So if you lower too much your ticket fares, it doesn't match. So the way to balance this is to increase the network that you have, to increase the connectivity with other airlines. Maybe you're not supposed to, you will not launch new routes every month or every year, but still connecting and interlining with other partners that will develop and grow that network. And by increasing the offer to the public, to the market, then you have more flights, you have more competition, and then the fares will go down, and then you will have more people. And it's a virtual circle, I would say. The more flights you have, the more passengers you will get, and the less they will have to pay for it. And then you will have more passengers again and again. So I think the key here is really to connect, to have more offers, and to take the risk of trying new routes, new connections. And yeah, and obviously Hahnair is always there to support this. But I really think that connectivity is the key here.
Yeah, so enhance intra-Africa connectivity, and for airlines to enhance their networks through partnerships in various forms.
Yes.
Because one of the main issues that we need to tackle as the industry, quite a number of initiatives are on course, is on how to address affordability of air transport industry in Africa. Because Africa has the lowest in terms of GDP comparing with the other continents. And whilst we have the lowest GDP, we have the highest ticket fares. And thank you for bringing that aspect out, that we need to have enhanced connectivity.
Yeah, but if you allow me something here, we've noticed during the pandemic and even now, the African market is really dynamic. We have many new airlines coming up. And if I compare the figures of this year compared to even last year, to date, we almost between 16 and 20% higher than last year, which means that the market is there, and the need for traveling is there, and the need even between African countries, but also when you bring up bring down people to Africa from other regions in the world, those people also need to travel. And we are seeing the figures going up. And the African market is really showing dynamism here.
Yeah, the potential is big for the African market, and looking at the AFRAA estimates, we are actually at 95% of the pre-COVID traffic levels, and looking at some of the niches actually have surpassed that previous level in before COVID. However, looking at the number of existing connections, this is still far lower than the real potential. So the potential is there, but the industry's task is to ensure that how do we actualize that potential. These are some of the various industry priorities that we have on course as the trade associations and as other organizations that are working towards sustainability of the air transport industry in Africa.
Yeah,
now, shifting, yes?
Sorry, I know that there are many initiatives that are out there in Africa. I know AFCAC is getting really is putting a lot of pressure. We know that AFRAA is always organizing this. I mean, this kind of conversation that we have now is really can also be helpful and just attract attention on those aspects. And obviously, this is something that Hahnair cannot take initiative for, but we will always be there to support. Whenever there is a request for interline, we will support that initiative from whichever airline that requests that. And we also know that it will help increase all those figures. So yes, there are political things that have to be done on each of those markets. There are a lot of lobbying work being done, although I know governments are still trying to protect their own airlines. But what we keep telling them all the time is, please connect to please cooperate with the other airlines. It will help. And if we bring more competition, if we bring more routes, that's the only way that we can lever up all this industry in Africa.
Yeah, that's well said. And there are specific actions that are airline focused, for example, the collaborations amongst airlines. And just to highlight, you talked about the interlining code shares. We have, under the framework of the AFRAA Route Network and Cargo Committee, this is one of the focus areas to bring airlines together so that they can have matchmaking and to give them the data they need, because you need to have data-backed decisions on which routes are good potential and which airlines to partner with. And then now Hahnair comes in. So the airline-specific actions, also there's actions at the industry level. We have the single African air transport market. A lot of traction is ongoing. We have currently 36 states that have signed the commitment, and various ongoing initiatives under SATAM, the roadshows for the pilot implementation project. And then we also have the African Continental Free Trade Area. A lot of traction on that, of course. And the two are working together, SATAM and AFCFTA, to ensure that as we open up the air transport, we also open up traffic on the cargo side so that we can have trade and air traffic intra-Africa being enhanced at the same time, just to realize the synergies. And now shifting gears to the aspect of the airline distribution in Africa. What are the gaps or challenges that airlines are facing? And also the travel agents in Africa. We have some actually invited for this show, some travel agencies. So what are the gaps and what are the challenges?
I would say that the gaps are the brand awareness. I already mentioned that a little bit before. But again, talking about, we all know about these big airlines. When you talk about even let me share one personal experience. When I travel to Africa, I very often fly with Ethiopian Airlines. They are well known, and for me, I mean, it's a big player. You can see them everywhere in Africa, and they are expanding their network. So I mean, they are really doing great. But still, when talking with my friends here in Europe, and I'm saying that I'm traveling, I'm flying Ethiopian Airlines, they say, "Oh, who are they?" And I'm just like, are you kidding me? These are big players, these are big boys, and they are really leading the market and the industry. So I think there is still a gap of brand awareness, not only in Africa, but mainly outside Africa. So this is a real gap. Although Africa, I mean, if you consider the tourism industry, if you think of Kenya, Tanzania, Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, even Western countries, Africa, I mean, there's such a potential, touristic potential, and even now people already know about this potential, but still they don't know how to fly to those regions, just because of the lack of the brand awareness. So I think this is a big gap. Now, if I put myself in the shoes of a travel agent, I mean, it goes together. Again, let's say that we are in Japan now and that we would like to fly to Nigeria for oil and gas business travel. Obviously, the travel agent will know how to fly to Abuja or any big city in Nigeria, but when it comes to flying domestic, they don't know anything. So but I would say it's the same the other way around. If you are an African travel agent and you need to book a flight to Latin America, so you will know how to fly to Sao Paulo, to Rio de Janeiro, but once you have to fly domestic flights, you don't know the airlines that are operating there. So what you will do is you need to trust somebody there, and then you go into the GDS and then you just find the name of an airline you don't know. So that's where distribution comes into the picture, and that you definitely need that. That's a must to be there in the GDSs, and to make sure that these little travel agents sitting somewhere in a small or a faraway country can find a solution for their customer, both way in Africa and outside Africa. So distribution here is definitely the key, because you will, as a small airline, even a bigger one, you will not advertise worldwide. I mean, this is too difficult to monitor. This is too expensive. There's no way that if I take Jumbojet, for example, they will advertise in their local market, and they do it very well, but they will never advertise in Argentina or Pakistan or in the UK. So what we do then is we bring them into the window shop, I would say, and this window shop is crucial. So that's what distribution is all about. Just put everyone into the window shop and make people outside aware of what is there, what is there to offer in terms of services.
Create some sort of marketplace, and everyone can access that. But how can this be achieved cost effectively? Because one of the biggest challenges you mentioned earlier is high cost of operations. Yeah.
If you go into a contract, I don't want to name each of them, but the GDSs, for having seen the invoice that they send you, it's to the roof. So there's no way that you will go, I mean, it's a choice, but I wouldn't recommend to go that way. What we offer actually is very cost effective, because we are covering the whole cost. Because when we talk about distribution, obviously there are the GDS costs. There's also the credit card costs, and the exchange rate cost. All these costs, in the end, make it too heavy. It's a burden for the smaller airlines. So what we offer, we have this infrastructure already in place. So actually, we can share those costs among all those partnerships that we have, and we are that way lowering the cost for the airlines. So that's a big benefit that we are giving the airlines. And I guess, especially when starting up a new airline business, there's no way that you would control everything that you would manage everything on your own. You have to trust people that are already there, that are already controlling and managing all these costs to the lowest. So yeah, I would recommend to just call us.
Yeah. Back to the keywords earlier: trust, and win-win-win relationships.
Absolutely.
Perfect. And then still on the distribution aspect, what is the current and future role of travel intermediaries?
Yeah, this is a very important aspect. Again, working without travel agencies is a nonsense. I mean, travel agencies need to work. There is that industry and many people working for that industry. And on the other hand, airlines need to trust those travel agencies. They need to rely on those travel agencies. There's no way that an airline will be able to sustain their activity only with their website, with their direct sales. Obviously, they will be able to open ticketing offices in the cities or at the airport, but they will never be able to fill up all their flights just using those outlets. So they will need other intermediaries there, and travel agencies are key here. And again, sorry to say that and to be a bit repetitive here, but when you mention travel agencies, you mean distribution again. So this is key. And those travel agencies can be very small ones, very niche oriented, but also bigger players like OTAs. And these are making a lot of business, bringing a lot of business to those airlines in Africa, I can tell you. So I guess these intermediaries are really important. Then there is also this very specific service providers. I'm thinking about virtual interlining. There are a whole range of services that are offered to airlines to bring up their figures in terms of distribution. The more we are, the better we do, I would say. But the basics nowadays is still travel agencies on top of the websites and the direct distribution, the direct channels. But without this distribution network, it doesn't work. So these are really key players. And we need them, and then we need to go through the distribution systems.
Perfect. Still on the distribution, we have the new distribution capability, NDC, which is a travel industry supported program aimed to modernize the way air products are retailed to travel agents, corporates, and travelers. And NDC promises to revolutionize how airlines distribute and sell their products. And if you look at the uptake for African airlines, we have this is really very low comparing to how other airlines across other continents have adopted and implemented. So why do we have such a low level of adoption in Africa?
It's very funny talking about this NDC, because even yesterday afternoon we had a team internally regarding this topic. Everybody's working on the NDC subject. But still, personally, I think it's something that everyone should think about, because I think it's the natural, logical evolution. I mean, whenever you talk about technicalities and technical product and services, those obviously will evolve with the new technologies coming up. So this is something that you cannot just pretend that it does not exist. And even in Europe or Northern American countries, it's already there. The adoption, you're right, you're absolutely right. The adoption is higher than in other regions, higher than in Africa. But it's still, you know, working, trying few features and then stopping them and then getting back. So I would say it's still tentative here. And it will evolve, and we are obviously working on it as well. And I guess it's not finalized yet. That's my point of view. I mean, everybody's talking about NDC, but without sometimes really knowing what it's all about. Even IATA sometimes, I mean, there have been so many steps in the development of NDCs, even within IATA. It really shows that it's still on process, ongoing. And we are all working on it. And I guess in Africa, it might be too early, I would say, to go into that direction for now, even though you cannot just close your ears and say it doesn't exist. You still have to keep this in mind and listen to what is there out on the market in the industry, but be very cautious. And I would say not spend too much time, money, and energy on it for now. And I think it's not a bad point that the adoption is not that high in Africa. That's my personal view. But things will move on for sure. But let's take time on this, I would say.
At the right time, we need to focus on that at the right opportune moment for this particular continent.
Like I mentioned before, we still have gaps on the basics of distribution. So I would first secure those distribution channels and make sure that we are already monitoring them and taking all the benefit from it, from what is already existing, what has proved to be working, because it does work, and is still working. I mean, the GDS business is still there. I mean, the GDS distribution channel is still there. So there's no way that you would say, okay, let's forget about this, because it has proven to be working.
Well said. And now moving on to technology and the use of technology and personalized services. The airline industry is in the midst of a profound technological transformation with new innovations and disruptions shaping how airlines do their business. In your view, in Hahnair's view, what is the prediction for how digitization and artificial intelligence will shape and affect the business and the airline industry at large in the coming about, let's say, 5 years?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask about this because AI is really the very trendy word. We had NDC before and now AI pops up. So again, here, AI is a technology that is really web-oriented, I would say. And we know that the web connectivity in Africa is still, I wouldn't say poor because this would sound negative, but there is still a gap for improvement, let's say that way. So as long as the web connectivity is not really spread out all over the markets, talking about AI is like talking about something, is like about talking about the moon on Earth, where you don't have any means to go to the moon.
Too futuristic, for this
I mean,
time.
Yeah, that's the way it sounds for now. And let's see what will happen. I mean, this is a technology which is not airline industry specific. So yeah, in the end, I believe that it will impact the way we work. The same way, let's make a parallel here with the mobile phone industry. If you go back to 30 or even less, 20 years ago, it was a very brand new technology. And last time when I was still living in Africa, there was no cellular cell phone out there. And when you go back there, everyone has a cellular phone. I mean, it's something that is really basic, and it has obviously impacted the way consumers will go to the market. And I guess many people are now booking flights on their mobile phone or on their mobile devices. So this technology comes to the industry, comes to our business, and we're not making that technology ourselves. And so we will rely on that technology. We will support each way each time we are requested to, but I would say this is not a key technological feature that is within the airline industry. It's something that supports the industry, but is not constituent of the business itself. So you have to take this into consideration, but not put too much focus on it for now. Once this has proven to, I mean, we have other markets where this will impact the sales process, I would say. Let's see how it impacts those areas. And we will adapt in our airline industry. So my recommendation here would be just keep eyes and ears open, listen to what is out there, try to think on how it integrates with our business, think about it, and then we'll see. And then obviously ideas will come up. I would also like to mention that at Hahnair, we have a specific task force where people are getting in touch with technological businesses, new companies that are starting up with these new technologies, and we are thinking together with them on how they can impact us, on how we can build up new areas where we can improve the sales process, the distribution process. So we are open to the markets, to the new technologies, to these new features and services. And we are thinking on how to integrate them into the classical distribution system, I would say. So we are open to it. But we are in a very early stage about this. So just open up eyes and ears and listen to what is there, and we'll see. And definitely we will move forward with this.
So for AI, keep a wait and see approach whilst having an open mind. Because for this particular industry, not going to be quite impacted as other subsectors. And back to the aspect of technology, technology is an enabler for efficiency of operations, and the adoption of digital technology many times does not come for African airlines as a priority, sometimes due to looking at the high costs of adopting some of this technology. So in your view, what is the risk of not digitizing for an airline?
Oh, that's huge. There's no way that you cannot digitalize nowadays. The same way we were mentioning the new technologies, this digitalization technology is something that was brought up, I would say 30 years ago, even more, maybe, depending on the markets. And this is something that is, you have to go through it. There's no other option. And again, whenever we talk about distribution, we talk about this classical travel agencies, but we also talk about OTAs, and OTAs are a big part of the market today. And when you talk about OTA, actually, you can book them from wherever you are. You can use whatever device you have at hand. You can book on your phone, you can book on your tablet, you can book on your laptop. You don't need to go and sit in queue in a travel agency and wait for your turn and then say, okay, I would like to go from this place to that place, and just go through books and turn pages and pages. That's the old time way of booking. So yeah, that's the way business works today. So whenever we talk about digitalization, we obviously talk about sales on digital devices, but also the way you service your customers. And this is where sometimes we are still missing, there are still some gaps in Africa. Because there are these operational challenges. Whenever you talk about, let's say you are a traveler, you need any specific service, and you would like to book it on your device. if the airline is not really controlling and monitoring its website or web sales, I would say, then there is an issue here. If you cannot book your access bag, if you cannot book your lounge access, if you cannot make sure that your baggage will be checked through down to your final destination, these are all aspects that are being standard nowadays, and that are sometimes still missing in Africa, even with big players. So I would say digitalization and servicing on digital support is getting key here. And again, we can help here, obviously, for the sales cycle through the classical distribution. What is interesting here is that this digitalization came as a layer on top of the classical distribution system that we already had before. Maybe thanks to the OTAs, which helped spread out all these possibilities throughout the web. And I think you cannot pretend that you will be on the market without going through digital support. This is key element.
So digitalization on the airline distribution aspects, that is key, is a priority. And now looking at partnerships, you talked about how important it is for airlines to embrace partnerships amongst themselves for enhancing their networks, enhancing connectivity. Now looking at partnership for success between Hahnair and industry organization, yeah, specifically AFRAA. AFRAA has a partnership program for non-airline entities such as Hahnair, OEMs, solution providers, where we work together for activities geared towards the development of the air transport industry in Africa. And this program was created since the year 2002. And Hahnair has been a partner of AFRAA since 2009, actually among the earlier partners that joined. So to you, Vincent, what is the value of such kind of partnership, and what do you foresee as value for airlines going forward?
Again, I think here it's a win-win partnership. It's a question of getting to the market and getting to get known throughout the industry. Whenever we reach out to a new potential lead on our side, and we mentioned that we have a connection with AFRAA, and that we have many airlines partnership with AFRAA which are already working with us. It's a window for us. It's a great argument saying that AFRAA trusts Hahnair and Hahnair trusts AFRAA. So that's where the win-win relationship work. And I guess the same way you address to airlines, and you mention all the partnership that you have, and whenever you mention Hahnair and the services that we can provide, and at the minute that those airlines are coming in touch with us, and they say, oh, we heard from AFRAA that you can provide this and that service. I mean, it's again, that's the trust relationship that you have built up with your members, and even with the non-members. I mean, sometimes just mentioning the name AFRAA with all those airlines, sometimes you are even pushing those non-partner with AFRAA airlines to join AFRAA and to gain all the benefits that AFRAA can offer them. So I would say it's promoting each other, not for our own interest only, but also for the interest of the whole community here. And I must say here that AFRAA is making a really good job because you are a small team, and hence you are being known from every airline, every industry stakeholder in the airline business in Africa, just being few people working there. So this is a big asset. And when we mention that we are partnering with AFRAA, it's always a very good value benefit point that we are mentioning there to those airlines. And also I would mention that we will we are working together on a new project, which I cannot disclose for now because it's almost done, but we will communicate about it very soon. And this will be a way of leveraging up this, this partnership. So stay tuned. And obviously everyone will benefit from there. I mean, AFRAA is working for the whole industry and promoting this connectivity and promoting all the tools and services that can be offered to those airlines to increase their benefit and business across Africa, but also worldwide. So yeah, we are very proud to be partnershiping with AFRAA. So yeah, so thank you.
Yes, we are very pleased to partner with Hahnair and other industry organizations because you know, we cannot achieve this alone. The famous African saying, if you want to go fast, you move alone. If you want to go far, you need to move together. So we are working together to develop the air transport industry in Africa. I have a couple of questions from the floor, one from Adikini Olwenge, and it's not related to our discussion. I think this will be answered by AFRAA, who's asking about sustainable aviation fuels and if you have any roadmap to achieving net zero by 2050. So Adikini, indeed, SAF is a very important component on the industry action that will lead us to achieve the 2050 net zero goal. Actually, the initiatives on SAF comprise of about 65% of the entire activities. And based on this level of importance, and you know that the SAFs are quite costly, and looking at also the production challenges, AFRAA has been directed by the executive committee to set up a task force. So we are setting up a task force on SAF, which will work on specific actions and will involve various players, including governments, because governments are key to ensure that we can have the adequate production and also the supply chain issues. And we'll also have initiatives on campaigns and education of various policymakers. We need to create awareness, and also various areas of engagement of African airlines and SAF suppliers, because we need to ensure that we can create that link so that African airlines are not left behind on SAF. This is what is ongoing currently on the action item on SAF. I hope that adequately answers your question. And to you, Vincent, we had received a question from Dr. Goendo, who also is on this call, webinar. He's asked a question specifically on how Hahnair was impacted by COVID. So you can share with us, how did COVID impact Hahnair business?
Yeah, we were impacted like any other player in the industry, obviously, as we are relying on the airline activity. Many markets were closed, so there was no flight, there was no selling, no ticket selling. But the funny thing is here is that the market, that the region that was still making a little bit of it was Africa, compared to all the other regions. So yeah, that's why we are always investing and putting efforts in Africa, because in the end, at the end of the day, that's where we still have a lot of improvement to be done, and we can see it. And during the COVID, yes, we were strongly impacted. And at the very first sign of reopening, Africa has done great. Really, traffic is picking up, and we can see it every day, even now. I already mentioned that we were increasing the coupon number that we are issuing on African carriers by almost 20% compared to last year, and it was even more last year compared to the previous year. So yes, we were impacted, but the region that allowed us to to keep alive and to keep us living was Africa. So thank you, Africa, again.
This is really good news to hear. So Africa really came out successfully in terms of your business. We still are not yet out of the woods. I mentioned earlier, we are at 95% of traffic levels compared to 2019. And in terms of profit, we are still in the red, but the progress is still on course.
Yeah.
We have a question from Michael Wakabi, who asks, what are the key drivers of the cost of distribution?
I would say that the GDSs again. These are really strong cost elements, and as soon as you are able to lower them either way, that's always a benefit. So that's one point. And then also, I mentioned before the BSPs opening. I mean, how as a small airline can you control all the open up BSPs in all countries and go through all markets yourself and pay for each BSP membership? This is nonsense. And as I mentioned before, we are present in 190 BSPs, meaning that just partnering with us, we immediately open up 190 BSPs without any additional costs. So whenever we talk about distribution, many costs are involved here and very heavy costs. So if you can lower them at the minimum, that's the best option when it comes to distribution, evaluation, and decision making.
Okay, thank you. And I will take one last question. I think just a comment. I'm seeing a Dikini response to the point on sustainable aviation fuels, that he recommends that we add the regional economic communities in the task force. Thank you for that observation. We definitely will do that. And we thank COMESA for the continuous collaboration on various initiatives to achieve sustainable air transport in Africa. And now, before we close the show, a few parting words of recommendations from Hahnair to the industry. Vincent.
I have these words coming up all the time: cooperation, connectivity. These are the keys. And spread up your network. Take risks of opening new routes, opening new markets. We will be supporting you. And also not only cooperation with us, but cooperation within the airline industry, among airlines. This is key. We have airlines which are partner with us, and we are trying to get them together and work together. And it's all beneficial for themselves, for us, but also for the final customer, the passenger. So this is key: cooperation, connectivity, and also take advantage of all these intermediaries, all these association, AFRAA, AFCAC. They are really there to help you, and this is the best way to do it. We need to support each other in this business development.
Well said. Thank you very much, Vincent, for gracing today's show as the guest and for sharing with us insights from Hahnair's perspectives. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your participation in this show. We hope that the takeaways, the recommendations arising from my conversation with Vincent will contribute to shape the airline businesses and propel Africa's growth. We will be sharing the recording on AFRAA YouTube channel. And this show takes place every first Wednesday of the month at 1400 hours East African time. Next month, which we have, the date is 6th of September, we are scheduled to have the World Tourism Organization, UNWTO, Director for Africa, who will be taking the stage. We look forward to another very insightful session with UNWTO. Thank you very much, and stay tuned.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Thank you, and bye-bye. Looking forward.
Bye-bye.
Bye.